When most men go in for their annual physical, they walk out thinking their blood work told them the whole story. That's exactly how I felt. My doctor told me everything looked normal, but what I didn't realize was that routine labs only check a few basic numbers and none of the deeper markers that actually predict future health problems. When I finally dug deeper on my own, I discovered that one of the most important markers wasn't even tested. And that's when everything changed for me. Today, I want to show you the 5 markers every man over 40 should know, because if I hadn't learned this when I did, I would still be walking around blind to what was really going on inside my body. The truth is, most of us think that the doctors are testing for everything that matters, but they're not. Not because they're bad doctors, but because insurance guidelines only require a few limited sets of tests. If you don't specifically ask for these deeper markers, they simply don't get run. That means millions of men are walking around thinking they're fine while metabolic issues are silently building below the surface. I've been there. My A1C looked normal, but I was already drifting towards insulin resistance and I had no idea. When I finally learned what was really happening under the hood, it changed the entire way I approach my health. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 blood markers that actually give you a full picture of your metabolic and cardiovascular health, what they measure and why they matter, and what's really happening inside your body when these numbers are elevated. I will also discuss why these problems occur in the first place and what you can do about it. My goal is to explain all of these in simple, everyday terms so you walk away with clarity, not confusion. Let's start with the most important one, which is ApoB. ApoB is essentially a particle count of the total cholesterol-carrying lipoproteins that can actually damage your arteries. Think of LDL cholesterol as the weight of the cargo and ApoB as the number of trucks carrying it. The more trucks on the road, the greater chance of accident. When ApoB is high, it means there are too many of these particles circulating in your bloodstream. These particles can slip into the walls of your arteries like tiny splinters. They get stuck, oxidized, and they trigger your immune system. Your body tries to clean up the damage, but in the process, it grows plaque. Over time, your arteries become narrower and more vulnerable. This happens because the liver is producing too many of these particles, often driven by genetics, excess body fat, poor diet, and chronic inflammation. ApoB gives you a far clearer picture of your cardiovascular risk than LDL alone. Next is the LPIR score, which is one of the earliest signs that something is going wrong metabolically. LPIR measures how sensitive your body is to insulin. You can have a perfectly normal A1C and fasting glucose, yet still be sliding towards prediabetes. Your LPIR score will catch it long before those standard tests do. When LPR is high, your muscle and liver cells have started ignoring insulin signals. That means your pancreas has to pump out more and more insulin just to keep your blood sugar steady. It's like your body's speaking louder and louder, but no one is listening. Over time, this extra insulin causes weight gain, cravings, and energy crashes. LPIR rises because of too many insulin spikes from processed food, excess belly fat, poor sleep, and chronic stress and inactivity. It's the smoke alarm that goes off long before the fire is visible. The next test you want is fasting insulin, which is closely connected to LPIR, but gives you another critical piece of the picture. Your glucose can stay normal for years while insulin quietly climbs higher and higher behind the scenes. When fasting insulin is elevated, it means your body is fighting to keep blood sugar stable. Your cells have become insulin resistant, so your pancreas is working overtime to push sugar inside of them. Imagine trying to open a stuck door and you keep pushing harder and harder with more force, but the door still won't budge. High fasting insulin means your metabolism is straining, your fat storage hormones are elevated, and your body fat is constantly under pressure. This usually develops after years of poor diet, too many refined carbs, and extra abdominal fat, stress, and lack of restorative sleep. By the time glucose finally rises, this battle has already been happening for a long time. Another key marker is CRP, which measures inflammation inside your body. Not inflammation you can feel like joint pain, but the silent, chronic kind happening at the cellular level. High CRP means your immune system is stuck in alert mode, constantly responding to irritation or stress. This low-grade fire can damage blood vessels, impair healing, and make plaque in your arteries more likely to rupture, and it's one of the strongest predictors of heart attack. This kind of inflammation rises from visceral fat, poor diet, inadequate recovery, chronic stress, gum disease, and even undiagnosed infections. Think of it like a small fire smoldering behind the walls of a house. You might not see the flames, but over time the structure weakens. And finally, you want to test for Lp(a), which is a genetically inherited version of LDL cholesterol, except it's stickier and more dangerous. Your liver produces Lp(a) based entirely on your genetics. It's not something you can change with diet or exercise. When Lp(a) is high, these particles are more likely to attach themselves to your artery walls and make existing plaque unstable. It doesn't mean you're doomed, but it does mean you need to manage your other risk factors more aggressively, especially ApoB. Think of Lp(a) like being born with a slightly weaker section of plumbing. You can't replace a pipe, but you can reduce the water pressure so it remains safe. Knowing your Lp(a) number can dramatically shift how you approach long-term cardiovascular prevention. The good news is this: almost all of these markers improve with the same handful of lifestyle habits. You don't need a complicated plan or an extreme diet. If you just focus more on eating whole foods and high-quality protein, getting 10,000 steps a day, lifting weights 3 or 4 times a week, and also improving your sleep and cutting back on processed carbs and sugar that keep your insulin elevated, you will start to see these numbers move in the right direction. When you lose visceral fat, your inflammation drops, and when you walk more and build more muscle, your insulin sensitivity improves. When you get your nutrition right, your ApoB often comes down as well. These small, consistent habits can dramatically change your long-term health. Remember, you have way more control over your metabolic future than you have ever been told. If you want the free Vitality Checklist, the exact habits that improve all these markers, just comment Vitality below and I'll send it to you. And if you're a man over 40 and you want to improve your vitality and live a longer, stronger, better life, welcome to the movement, and I'll see you in the next video.